and welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca and today is my NEC Classic Motor Show Roundup Review Experience podcast. It's crazy to think that I've been doing these now for probably coming up to 5 years now. Peggy having first gone back in 2021 and this being her first year not going along herself, but me being very much all over the place all weekend with lots of stuff to get done and be part of. So this year was also a bit of a weird one for me because the last 2 years I've had 2 club stands that I've been sorting out. The Women Drivers Social Club stand, a more recent addition, and obviously the Morris Minor Owners Club Young Members, which I handed over to Nathaniel and Dara earlier this year. So whilst I was filling out my form about where all of the stands and stuff ought to be, to make things easiest for us, it was really nice to say it'd be nice to be near the young members, but actually we don't need to be as close as we have been in the past. And actually it worked out that we still were very, very close, which was really nice because I still love those guys and it's always nice to have friends nearby when you're in the halls. But not my stand to worry about this year, which was a bit of a relief and definitely took some of the load off my mind because putting these stands together is not super straightforward. There's lots of logistics, lots of thoughts that go into it, getting all of the cars and the people there, having a theme, planning everything does take time. And for me, a lot of all the paperwork and stuff, a lot of people don't realise starts way back in kind of March, April time when you first put your application in to be at the NEC as a club. And then you get the information about the theme, and the theme this year was Best of Both Worlds. And for me, the Women Driver Social Club has really become the best of both, a car club for these women who are looking for a place that feels like they found their people, but also a little bit of a girl guides for girls who love automotive and cars. And so that was kind of our theme. It was a best of both worlds in the regards of a car club, but also a camping and having a good time kind of club. And so we went all in on this kind of camping theme on the stand. So we had Vicky come along with her VW camper, which was an obvious no-brainer to have on the stand. It's been to so many of our events, and to have the option to have a VW camper van on your camping themed stand just seemed obvious. But she also offered us her Rocket, which got so much attention over the weekend. So the Rocket, as it's called, is an Airstream style caravan that was built in Britain by a British company who make a lot of the kind of Airstream themed and looking food vans that you see about the place nowadays. So most of their business is that, and they had for a while gone into making little caravans and stuff like that, and the Rocket was their display one, their one that they showed and things like that. But it's a really intricate handmade piece of equipment, and so they were very expensive, and so they didn't sell that many. So they ended up selling on their display caravan, and Vicky was able to get hold of it as she needed the perfect extension for her VW camper, as her kids got too big to go up in the pop top of it. So she offered us that, and I was like, let me do the maths, let's see if we can get it on the stand, because I think it'd be amazing to have it. And we managed to get it on, and because it actually shares a very similar footprint to a Hillman Imp, and so it isn't at all very big on the outside, but inside it's really quite roomy. I think on Sunday at one point we had 4 or 5 of us sat at the little dining table in it, painting nails, making friendship bracelets and doing a bit of colouring. So really great, and both that and the camper provided a really good little quiet spot for people to go into that kind of deadened a lot of the noise that happens in the halls that can get quite overwhelming after a long period of time. So they were really welcome spaces. So they kind of formed part of the walls that went round our little campsite, and then we had my sister's Hillman Imp Californian, which we had the great fun of trying to load everything on the Wednesday night, ready to travel up on the Thursday for build up. They are surprisingly spacious, particularly if you've got somebody loading the imp that knows imps in and out and has been loading lots of stuff into imps for a great many years, which was my dad. So he'd come up to do a little few bits on it for my sister before it went to the show, and we were like, okay, if we bring the stuff out to you, can you try and get as much of it in there as possible? And we did really well. We got a lot of it in there. There was only kind of 2 camping chairs that we would have to bring in the following day once Jamie came up. So surprisingly spacious little things. And of course, if it had been a regular Hillman Imp, we might have done well to use the back window and get stuff in. But being a coupe style body, everything was going in through the side doors, and we managed to get everything in with a reasonable amount of Tetris and things like that. Then next to that we had George, the Audi Avant 100, which belongs to Katie of Wenching Wrench, and we bought George because George was kind of Katie's gateway into getting camping with us. She's not a camping fan. She didn't really want to do much camping if she could help it, because she not really enjoyed it as a kid. But she thought if she could put an airbed up in the back of George and kind of use him as a bit of a sleeper, that might work out for her. So she did that for our weekend in North last year, and it was reasonably successful. And if George perhaps wasn't so naughty in a lot of ways, she might have used him a bit more frequently for the other camps. But she has now bought a proper tent and started camping in a more traditional way, but having George set up like a little camper van, sleeper camper, was really cool, and just shows just how massive George is in length. Though surprisingly, once we parked Sarah's DS next to it, or D Special, that was also pretty much just as long. And I was kind of expecting that, because I'd obviously done the maths of how all the cars were going to fit on the stand. But to see them next to each other, and George just looks so much longer, but actually isn't that much longer than the DS. So that was our lineup of cars on the stand. And then we also had, as a couple of additional helpers, Sophie and Hannah and Tash. So a really nice lineup of both our members and the cars organised for the stand, and they all worked really well for the theme, because a lot of us had been to basically all of the camping weekends in one way, shape or another, and had a fantastic time. So we were able to talk a lot to people that were coming along and tell them exactly what the club gets up to. We'd all kind of travelled up on the Thursday. Build up meant that me and my sister got there first, were met by Tash, got as much out of the imp as we could so that we could get the imp into position, because the 3 cars that were going along the front weren't going to have too much space between them. So getting her stuff out of the car, getting her into position, and then getting the other cars in. And I was having a little bit of a stress because I've never had it before, but Alison, the lady that sorts out the car clubs, had emailed and said, are you sure that you're getting 5 vehicles onto this stand? And I'd gone, yeah, I'm pretty sure we can get the 5 on. I've sketched it all out to scale, but oh my gosh, it meant that for weeks now I've been really panicking about whether all the cars were going to fit and whether we were going to have to do some jiggery pokery. But no, the stand came together exactly how we wanted it. We put out our little miniature tent with the club kind of bears and stuff like that involved, sat round, our little soft toy campfire and marshmallows. And yeah, the theme was really starting to come together, and we had quite a lot of seats there for people to be able to come and have a rest, have a break, and enjoy the stand. It took us kind of until about 4 o'clock-ish, I think, to get everything into position. It does take quite a bit of time, especially when you're like trying to clean the cars because the weather was so bad on Thursday. And then I think some of us went to grab a hot drink from the Starbucks that's just outside Hall 5 where we were. And as we were walking out, there was a guy right on the corner plot that was selling flags. Really well made replica flags of kind of all sorts of things. But he had this absolutely massive really nicely done replica of a Votes for Women flag. And so before we'd even got to the coffee, we're like, oh my gosh, how much is that? I think we need it for our stand. And so it ended up being the perfect addition to the stand as we hung it over the camper van, and it really helped us stand out from a distance as to where we were and what we were all about. Then we kind of had a bit of a wander around a few of the halls to see what had been already set up before the public came in, sat round our little campfire and had a bit of a chat and a catch up because of course it had been a couple of months since some of us had seen each other, so loads of stuff to have a chat about before we headed off to our overnight accommodation for the night. And I was so pleased with how the stand had come together. We'd got all of our lovely new merch, including our motoring merit patches that we officially launched at the show, our battle jackets that we were having a raffle for, loads of really cool stuff. The camping theme was really obvious. It was really clear to see who we were and what we were about, and yeah, I think it was definitely a stand that I'm most proudest of so far in terms of hitting the theme and feeling like a really well put together stand, and people were giving us compliments on it all weekend, which was fantastic. Now the actual show was a real mix of me being on the stand, me wandering around the halls, me catching up with people, as it often is. And I do a kind of a loose rota for the stand of the volunteers, but I'm a bit cheeky in the fact that given I've spent so much time working on putting the whole stand together, I leave it somewhat loose as to when I'm on the stand, so that I can kind of fill in for people if they need to pop off to the toilet or whatever. But also I can go around and get stuff done for recording for the podcast, catching up with people. I also had 2 stands that I was there doing some social media work with, so lots of stuff for me to kind of be out and about doing. So I won't go through kind of where I was and when on each of the days, because I really was all over, but I thought I'd highlight some of my favourite bits of the show and highlight some things that I thought about the show overall. Overall, the show did feel quite different, I feel, to last November. There were some noticeable changes, I feel, in the car clubs and kind of dealers and auctions. The auction felt much bigger than it has in previous years, took up a lot more of Hall 2, and it did make it quite difficult to move in the halls from Hall 1 through to Hall 3, because the actual area that you could walk through was quite narrow, but there was some good stuff that you wanted to see in that walk through from Hall 1 to Hall 3. So you did want to be in the halls, but it was quite, especially on Saturday, really quite ram-packed, because the auction takes up so much of Hall 2, and you can't actually walk around it unless you've got entry to it. So that was a little bit annoying, but it was great to see that there was such an interest in so many vehicles being for sale. Some of them made some really big numbers, which was kind of crazy, and a lot of good news, I think, there for the interest around some classic cars, in that this auction was as big as it was and that it was getting as much interest as it was. Hall 1 also felt kind of different. There was a lot of clubs that have historically been in Hall 1, the hall that a lot of us refer to as kind of the posh hall, because it's got all the carpet and it's got the big posh brands like Porsche and stuff like that. There were some car clubs that were missing from the whole show that would usually be in there, which was kind of interesting. But it meant that some clubs kind of got a bit of an upgrade into Hall 1. So clubs that had previously been in Hall 3 or Hall 5 had got stands in Hall 1, which was quite interesting. A lot of the insurers had done some really interesting displays in Hall 1, and it was just a shame that some of them hadn't put a lot of cars on, because it's a car show, so even just having one car on their stand does make a bit of a difference. It does give a bit of an interest point, and it's something you're more likely to take a photo of and say, oh, this was on the so-and-so stand, and I really enjoyed seeing it, or whatever. So some interesting changes there. It was also interesting that I felt that Hall 3 felt like it had more dealers in than ever before. Again, could be a positive in the fact that there's clearly a growing market around classic cars, but it made me wonder where some of the clubs that have previously been involved in the show have ended up going. 8 has traditionally been the Ford Hall. All of the Ford clubs end up in Hall 8, which you have to kind of walk through a little closed off walkway to get to Hall 8 from Hall 5 and the rest of the halls. But this year it also had minis in there, which was quite interesting. Again, making me wonder, has there been some Ford clubs that have stopped coming that has caused the movement of them, or are we just trying to make it so that more people go into Hall 8? Because I think a lot of people miss out Hall 8 not realising it's there, or if they go, oh, I'm not that interested in Fords, I won't go there. But it is actually a really interesting hall to go round, and there was a stand there that had a really cool, like, Live Aid themed stand that was really creative and interesting, and again would have been something that people might have missed if they were not doing Hall 8, because if you're going round this show in one day, seeing everything is near impossible. You do really need a couple of days to go round it. It's much bigger than the Practical Classics restoration show in March, and so to actually be able to see everything, you do almost need 2 days, or to be fortunate enough, like myself, that you're on a club stand, so you can spread out your opportunities to see stuff over the 3 days. And even then, I'm pretty sure I didn't see everything. There was also some changes to the live stage and the podcast lounge. So the live stage, it was really great to see that they'd put on a woman's panel on the Saturday afternoon, and also got more women involved in some of the other panels that were going on. It's been something that we've been kind of shouting about trying to get more of for ages, and to get that women's panel was a big jump. But I did notice that it was only done the once, whereas some of the other panel topics were repeated 2 or 3 times over the weekend. So if you went on the Saturday, you got to see this really cool panel that the Women Drivers Social Club got a really nice shout out from, and it had a real mix of people. So it had the head of Lancaster Insurance, who is a woman. It had Steph from I Drive a Classic. It had Catherine Giltz from Giltz's Garage Cafe. It had Tanya from the VSCC. It had Bobby Pryor from Radio 2, and also her YouTube that she's part of. And it had Andrea Seed, who does all of the PR work and press work and stuff like that, and organising the stage at the NEC. So a real mix of people with a real mix of backgrounds, and it was really fascinating to see. And I like to think it opened up a few people's eyes about how much work women put into a lot of these events and shows. But you only got to see it if you were there on the Saturday. If you'd gone along on like the Friday or the Sunday, then you didn't get to see it, whereas a lot of the other topics were being repeated on several days. But fantastic to see, and the crowd that was there for it was really big, and so that is always really reassuring and promising to see. And we did have quite a lot of people come up to the stand afterwards to say that they'd been at the panel, they'd heard us being mentioned, and had come along to kind of see what we were about, and how they could get involved, which was fantastic. Well, we're nearly 20 odd minutes in, and I've not even started talking about some of my favourite cars that I saw at the show, which just goes to show how brilliant this event really is. Something that caught a lot of our eyes as we saw it coming in was a anime DeLorean, which none of us were expecting to see, but it was quite fun to see someone having fun with a DeLorean that wasn't necessarily Back to the Future themed, and I think the DeLorean Owners Club seemed to appreciate that too, because it had a really good spot on their stand, and it did make us smile. Of course they had a Back to the Future themed DeLorean on there, but it was really good to see one that was a little bit different, and somebody having fun with it in a different way. I really enjoyed seeing the Daily Mail World Rally Car stand. They had quite a lot of Ford Mexicos on there. I don't know if that was the kind of whole theme of the stand, or if it was just a coincidence that they were a car that was used a lot in these particular rallies. But it was fantastic. I love seeing rally cars of that era, all kind of still as they were, and a lot of them still being used by their owners today for more challenging and grueling tasks than just your trip to the shops and a car show. So a really fantastic stand, and it's always one that I try to keep an eye out for when the show's on, so that I can go and have a look and see what they put on it, and a nice mix of stuff. And I saw in the distance Bron Burrell on the stand as well, so some really high caliber people to talk to about the experiences of historic rallying. Near us in Hall 5 there was some sort of like Wolseley pre-war saloon that had the most long and elegant bonnet, and then this ever so cute little tiny back end, and I had to walk past it quite a lot in terms of going to the toilets or going to get stuff from that side of the hall, and it just caught my eye every single time. It had a fantastic crowd around it, for a lot of the show. It's just a cool, interesting thing to see, and to see kind of a sporting saloon almost was a really interesting car to see. Also near us in Hall 5 was something that I'd spotted on the maps when we got given the drafts of where stuff was going to be in the halls, and I was very excited. It was very near, and this was the Post Office Vehicle Club. I love a post office vehicle. You've all heard me talking about that before and how excited I was when I saw that one at Rustable. This was equally very good. They had a little post box on the stand, they had some old post office uniforms, and they had bicycles, vans, little commercials, big commercials, a real great mix, and some really interesting boards about the history of post office vehicles, which was great to see. In Hall 1 there was the GN Spider, which is always very cool to see, and I'm always excited to see it, and they'd kind of taken the bonnet off so you could get really up close and see what was going on in its bonnet. Also in that kind of realm of things, the VSCC stand is always brilliant. They always put on a fantastic display, and to see a really muddy, hard-working, trialling Austin 7 in Hall 1 was just brilliant, and great fun, and just shows how capable so many of these pre-war cars are at getting stuck in, having fun, and not taking themselves too seriously. And that car, I believe, belongs to Tanya Brown of the VSCC, who had used it at the Cotswolds trials not that long before, and had deliberately left all of the muck and everything on it to have it on display in Hall 1, showing the realities of using these vehicles to their full potential. It's fun to see the microcars. They were in Hall 3 this year. I didn't spot the Meadow Friskies, but it was cool to see a Microlina next to the bubble cars on some of the stands there, to see that kind of comparison, and the fact that we've really brought back and embraced this historic style for the needs of modern kind of people going out and about around town and on small little journeys that just need a little runabout. They are fantastic for that and look really fun, and it's definitely something that I would love to have a go in at some point. At the other end of the scale, to a cheap little fun runabout, there is ST Mills Coachwork vehicle that was on one of the dealers' stands in Hall 3, and just incredible work and craftsmanship on the wooden body of it. So many beautiful details, right on like a walkway, so you really caught your eye and drew you in, and it was just beautiful to see. And me and Sophie were going around looking at it and just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. Of course, the Singer Owners Club stand was another brilliant one, and this year the stand was kind of organised by one of their younger members, George, who had put loads of effort into getting a cardboard cutout of George Singer, loads of work into getting a range of the Singer cycles as well as the cars, so that you could properly see the full range of 150 years of Singer, and really cool to see. And the guys that had brought the cycles along were really great fun. We got some great footage of them cycling them around the halls at the end of Sunday, and having an as you drive on the stand and seeing that with its roof all folded back and its doors open was very cool to see, and got quite a lot of interest from what I could tell. The Morris Minor young members put on another fantastic display. For the first time in ages, they had a convertible on the stand, which was brilliant to see, and it really caught a lot of people's eyes. And interestingly, at the other end, they had a complete they had Evie back again, showing kind of the progress in the restoration by James for that. And it really does highlight the amount of work that has been going into getting that car up and running again, and looking forward to seeing further progress from him on that one. There's loads and loads of stuff that I could mention. I could be here all day, but hopefully it's given you a little bit of a taste of what was at the show, what we were enjoying, what we spotted, and I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of videos with full walk rounds and stuff like that by now. By Sunday evening, as is often the case, we were all absolutely exhausted. We'd had a fantastic weekend. We'd gone out for group meals together with the Women Drivers Social Club. We'd had some really fantastic chats with people who had come to the stand, and just generally had a really lovely time. I also, very last minute, ended up being involved in the new and improved podcast lounge. The Car Chum podcast had got involved to make it a little bit more friendly to people getting involved and sitting and enjoying it in the audience, making sure that those who were taking part had a good experience as well. And yeah, we had a fantastic time, and hopefully you'll have enjoyed the podcast that was recorded in the podcast lounge last week, where we got to speak to Bobby Pryor and Adam Poulton about their experiences of the NEC and of classic cars. So that's it really. The horns all blared on the Sunday evening, and we then commenced breakdown, and it is always hilarious about how it often takes us hours and hours and hours on the Wednesday and the Thursday to set these stands up, but they come down with great ease and great speed when it gets to Sunday evening. We were all kind of out of there reasonably quickly on the Sunday evening before heading on our way home, and all of our cars made it home with no issue, and we're really looking forward to seeing what the future of the Women Drivers Social Club holds at the show. We are hoping, fingers crossed, for a resto show stand. We think it would be really fantastic to have a very active stand at the show, showing some of the fantastic skills that we've got within the club, and we're hoping to hear about that in the not too distant future. But we've continued to have a really fantastic time in the November show regardless, and we are at the moment, at the time of recording this, which is not long after the weekend, about 25 members up from when we started, and also things like our motoring merit patches and tote bags and things did really well at the show, so the club is feeling quite comfortable going into the next year of getting some really good events going for our members, which is always fantastic. So hopefully you've enjoyed hearing about it. If you went along to the Classic Motor Show, I would love to hear about a standout vehicle for you, a standout experience for you at the show. And in the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.